A few months ago, this was just a plot of land. Now it's rising fast. Let's go. What does it say on here?
It says Proma Developments, achieve and believe.
Do you achieve and believe?
Once we have an occupier, we'll know what we'll do with the commercial unit. And then we can make a decision on whether we will retain the unit. First lesson is to organize the tender process properly. Have all of the documents available, make sure that they are coordinated.
You don't want to be squeezing a site from the initial stage. You need to, before you even look at getting finance on that site, the numbers need to work prior to finance.
So our business plan this year is to
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. Today we are heading back to northwest London to revisit my friend Phil's exciting development that we first explored roughly 9 months ago. Back then it was just an empty plot of land, and now we are catching up with Phil to see how the project's coming to life. Let's go.
Hey Phil.
Hey Paresh, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
Good, how are you? Oh,
Good to see you.
good to see you too.
How you doing, mate? Good to see you. This is it. Look
This
at
is
that.
it.
It's a big change. Bit different to when I was here last.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, we're getting on with it.
Yeah, looks good. Well, great to see you and great to be back. What a difference 9 months makes. I think it's been 9 months, right, since I was here last.
Yes.
So, just for new viewers, can you give us a recap of what you guys are doing here?
So what we're doing here is we demolished an old chapel that was on the site, and we're building a new build scheme of 8 flats and a commercial unit on the ground floor.
And just remind us again, how are you doing the construction? How is your team set up?
So, having a superstar team that outperformed the industry. So on Proma's side, we have Tyler Norwood, who's standing next to me, who is responsible and taking the lead on delivering the project for Proma. And then we have a main contractor called Max, who's delivering the construction of the project. And we have a roster of architects, engineers, M&E, planning, fire regulations, etc., etc. So I think we really have an amazing team that we've put together to deliver this project.
So Tyler, your role is to oversee the site and also the team working here?
That's
Is that
it.
correct?
So I work on the client side of the development. So me and Phil met each other. I'm the project development manager for Proma. I execute this scheme from the ground all the way through to completion, nailing everything along my value chain.
Cool. And then, Phil, that gives you time, right, to think about the bigger picture for Proma?
Yes, so our business plan this year is to acquire 2 more sites. So what I'm focusing on at the moment is visiting at least 1 site per day in person to review it, putting offers in, dealing with agents, speaking with banks actually that might have sites that they've lent to that are looking for a developer to bring it to completion, and really setting up the team and the overall business for future success and growth.
So we're about to go inside and have a look around, but before we do, can you just remind us, this was a site you bought with planning, right?
Yes, that's right. We bought the site with planning. It was a consent that was granted in 2019. We implemented it just before it was due to expire, and we've made some changes since. But yeah, that's right. We bought the site with planning.
Okay, cool. Right, should we go in? Should we have a look?
Let's go.
Yeah?
Let's roll.
Cool, perfect. I'll follow you.
These were PPE.
Oh, look, this is it. Look at this service here.
Look at the service.
Right,
I'll let all that as well.
thank you very much. Cheers. So what does it say on here?
It says Proma Developments, achieve and believe.
Wow. And do you achieve and believe?
Yes. We believe in order to achieve.
There you go.
Shall we give you a quick tour around, show you around the site and see what we're
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to?
Let's see the progress. Yeah.
So if we wander around here.
Yeah. Commercial unit on the ground floor, right? Or is it one commercial unit or?
So it's 1 commercial unit on the ground floor. This is your entrance into the main area
For the residential, yeah.
This is obviously the block work starting to go
Yeah.
up. We're ahead of schedule in terms of our overall schedule for the development, which is always a positive. The block work was meant to start on the 16th, so we're well ahead on that instant.
Okay. And when did the RC work start? The RC frame?
That started about 3 months ago.
Okay. Nice. Nice. And you're nearly there? Is it finished, the RC frame?
We are up to 3rd floor, poured today.
Right.
So we'll go see some freshly laid concrete upstairs.
What's your plan for the commercial unit?
To leave it as a shell, and then when we get an occupant that wants to take it on, we'll then fit it out to their requirements. Okay. But until we've got an occupant, we won't know.
Once we have an occupier, we'll know what we'll do with the commercial unit, and then we can make a decision on whether we will retain the unit, rent it out to an occupier, refinance it, or whether we will sell it to an investor as an occupied unit.
So as you can see here, the internal block work between the columns is starting to go up. We've had to install a retaining wall here to prevent water ingress from the site next door.
Oh, right.
Which is an ongoing complexity at present, which is slightly frustrating, but you always have your issues on construction sites.
Yeah.
That's just part of the role.
Yeah. So that's the neighbour's wall, and you're coming in with a skin of block work, right?
That's it. That's it. So because we're in close proximity to a neighbouring wall, we have to have a party wall agreement between us and the neighbouring property, which ensures that both parties are on the same wavelength, understand what's going on, whether we're having to connect into their wall, just to give both people complete clarity on what's occurring.
Okay. Why did you need a retaining wall? Just out of interest.
We've had to retain this element because their underbuild on this side is obviously present, as you can see.
Right.
So we've had to retain it from here all the way down to the back end of the site. And we're now extending that retaining wall all the way to the front of the site due to water ingress. So this has got a waterproofing detail to the rear of it. We inject the wall with effectively this is just a waterproofing detail that prevents the water ingress onto our site. This will all be part of the commercial unit, but we're leaving this area open at present to allow us to get materials up to the higher floors. Because this site is surrounded by obviously 3 walls, the north, south, rear elevation.
Yeah.
So in order to get materials up onto the other floors, we're going to put a lift goods in here to allow us to get our blocks up onto higher floors and so on.
Okay, amazing. Perfect timing.
What?
Perfect timing. So when the work above is done, you're going to kind of close this lid off. Is the surface above this going to form any kind of amenity space for the residential flats, or is it just roof space?
So yes, it will. But what we've had a few challenges in the process of getting to this. So we've looked at the viability of potentially turning this downstairs commercial area into a duplex flat for the flat above. Obviously adding an extra 2 bedrooms down to this area and having a courtyard present in the middle. So we went into the planning portal and submitted section 73, and the council unfortunately weren't happy with the dynamics that were occurring with 2 bedrooms down here, so they changed it to, they wanted us to only have 1 bedroom with a larger garden. Unfortunately, when me and Phil looked at the viability of it in terms of GDV, it turned out that it wasn't viable, so it's now going back to being a full commercial unit on the ground.
Okay, right, cool, makes sense. Yep.
And I think that Tyler has correctly highlighted the challenges of dealing with councils when building residential and mixed-use commercial schemes like this in London. It's kind of one of the main challenges and opportunities that we face in our business.
So we're at the back of the site and we're looking up at the rear elevation. They're all residential floors, so I presume, are there balconies coming out?
That's it. So we've got balconies coming out on the first floor. They're going to be built in the RC frame, and then as we go further up, they will be, as you can see, there's still rebar coming out of the RC frame on the upper floors. So those balconies will be cantilevered off the RC frame.
Okay.
And it will be a very seamless finish. We're going to have LED lighting all around the balconies. We've got a full lighting design. It's going to be pretty spectacular.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds good. So since I was here 9 months ago, the RC frame started in March, right? So what was the gap then?
Yeah.
What happened in that time?
So the gap in that time was primarily retendering the construction in the main contract.
Right.
There were a few other things we did. One was we re-looked at the planning conditions and discharged them, or changed some of the discharges that we'd done. We confirmed, or we honed in on the tender process, or the tender pack that went out to contractors.
Okay.
And we got a contract admin and a QS on board.
What you did do, Phil, isn't it? You reworded some of the conditions to allow you to start construction, to ensure that the consent didn't expire, which effectively allowed Proma to pick up the site for a really good price. So I think that's a pretty good point to mention.
Yeah.
Phil was very smart in the way he went about it and adapted conditions to ensure that we could start commencing works on site, which implemented the planning, which meant that we got it for a very good price.
Yeah. Okay. So, like is it the pre-commencement conditions?
That's exactly it. So there's usually pre-commencement conditions, construction conditions, and post-completion conditions that need to be signed off, and these are all covered in something called a decision notice, which is released by the council upon granting permission for a development site.
Cool. Yeah, I think the word you used last time was opportunistic.
Yeah, opportunistic.
Believe and achieve.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So what's the shape? I can see the layout of this commercial unit. Is it like a U shape with the middle portion being the access to the residential? Is that correct? And then
yeah, that's exactly it. So obviously the commercial unit runs from the entrance to the commercial unit will be down there, and it's glass panelling at the front of the site. So access for the commercial unit will have its own access route, so it won't go through the residential sector. This will then run all the way around here and form a U shape. And we're looking at getting maybe a gym occupant or some kind of leisure facility, potentially a Pilates studio. We've had CGIs drawn up for maybe an office as well. Just to give any potential occupants a visualization of what potentially might be in here. So
okay. What are the area requirements for a gym?
That's a good question.
I think it might be a bit tight, right, for a gym?
Yeah,
possibly.
I think obviously. I think in this instance, it's a fairly usable space. It can be adapted and worked with. It's a Class E unit, so it's
flexible.
It's a flexible unit, which means we can have various different occupiers in. We obviously don't really want to have a restaurant or anything that's going to be noisy for our residents. So.
No. Okay.
Artlist.io.
We are on the first floor, and I presume there's like a unit on the right, unit on the left?
That's right. For the full building, there's a unit on the left and a unit on the right, going up to full building.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of 2 beds and 1 beds, and on the top floor we have a studio flat. So on this floor, actually, it's one of the largest flats, which has a pretty cool skylight here. Which is where the living room is going to be.
Wow. Cool. Pretty impressive, yeah.
You can kind of visualise the space up here as well.
Yeah.
Once you get rid of these lazy men, which is currently supporting the RC frame.
Yeah.
You can see down there we're going to have our balcony that protrudes all the way to the end of the site as well. And you get a really good visualisation of how great this space is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What's your build program on this?
So the build program, we've got an estimated completion date of the 3rd of March, 2026. So at present, we are on track to hit that. We're ahead of schedule.
Amazing.
So at present, we take all the floors up while integrating other contractors onto site. So we've got the brickie on site at the minute, trying to make up a bit of time. So we're infilling in between each column. Once the brickie's completed his works, we'll then get the windows on board. That then makes the building watertight.
Yeah.
That's when we can start implementing internals such as M&E and all of that kind of jazz.
So now we're on the second floor, and the reason I wanted to come to this floor is I remember discussing these windows with you when you first purchased the site. They were a bit of an issue, right? So how have you dealt with that? What's going on there? What's the story?
Up the wall from our side,
Yeah.
and the windows of the neighboring property, the landlord or the owner has the choice of what they will do with the windows. I think their current choice is that they will retain them as is.
Right.
But what he could do in the future is take them out
Yeah.
and block up the wall.
Block up the wall.
The foundational point is that the windows shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right.
I think when you were here last, we looked up at this side where you had the windows. They oversail onto our land, which shouldn't be the case. And then we looked up at Lightworks, and there were no windows, which is correct, which is how it should be.
Yeah. Okay. It's a bit crazy, isn't it? They're just gonna.
It is a bit crazy,
Yeah.
but it's not our land. It's out of
No.
our control.
Yeah.
We've made him aware. We've notified him.
So we're on the third floor, and
Parash, you're looking at the camera. Can I just point that out? You're not looking at me or Tyler. Sorry, but
it's all right.
look at you looking at the camera.
No, I know, but you've kind of. All right, you guys have to shift that way a bit then. Yeah. All right, move back a bit. Yeah, you've given them every opportunity.
We've given them every option to do what they want to do, and
yeah.
they haven't made any decisions. So
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, this is a great scene where you can see that this side, they have the windows, which if you open them, they actually oversail onto our site, onto our land, which shouldn't be the case. And on the other side, Lightworks, you can see a nice, clean, flush, beautiful wall with no windows.
Correct.
Which is how it should be.
You can really see like the tight nature of the site here, can't you? Have there been any challenges in the construction so far?
yes, there has been a fair few challenges. So we've got between the edge of the RC frame
Yeah.
and any exterior wall that butts up against our development site, there should be a 50mm gap. Fortunately, sometimes you have errors of setting out, and the building's obviously in a very tight area, and in some points we've just got enough room to put our insulation in. So yeah, but we've dealt with it, overcome the issues, and we're moving forward, which is always positive, right?
That's good. Yeah. And where are you ranging with your build costs on this so far?
So our build costs look realistic, or we are slightly higher than what we had originally budgeted. But overall, we're in line with what we would have expected.
Why is the build cost increased from your original appraisal?
So one of the main factors that has increased the build cost is the engineering and the structural design. So we had allowed for a certain amount of rebar and steel to go into the concrete frame structure, which it turned out was then too low.
Okay.
So there's around a £50,000 increase in steel that has gone into this building. But that's one of the things, I think that's one of the risks that you take on when you do development. And the engineering design isn't done really until the point that he actually put it in, and he poured the concrete and he put in the steel.
Yeah, and I can see there's going to be another floor, right, going on top.
That's it, yeah.
I remember when I came here last time, you mentioned that you were going to put in a minor amendment to change the top floor, penthouse, something. You were going to create an additional penthouse. Was that correct?
Yeah. The idea. So the top floor is currently a studio and a one-bed flat.
Yeah.
And my thinking was to change that into one 3-bedroom top floor penthouse. But when looking at the scheme and assessing the sales values and the rental values, came to the conclusion that actually it makes more sense to retain it as it is.
Okay, for rental.
For rental purposes, most likely, yeah.
Okay.
However, we are changing the the details of the roof. So yeah, we're going in for we've done a non-material amendment for the ground floor changes as we discussed earlier, and then we're inputting a section 73 change for the top floor to change the mansard roof into a square roof with a flat topping on top of it, just to allow there to be more space within that flat, because previously the pitch was it was effectively tilted, it was mansard, so it meant that there was low head heights. So we want to square it off so it's nice and spacious. There's lots of room, skylights in the ceiling.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's going to look great. Just back on to what you were previously talking about, why have you decided to go down the rental route on this? Because I think when I was here last, the idea was to sell the units.
Yeah. So plan A is still to sell the units. However, we live in the real world and we deal with the reality of the market. So what I'm seeing currently is that the value of sales and the rate of sales has decreased over the last 12 to 24 months. So what Tyler and I are working on currently is having a backup option available, which is renting out the flats, putting a long-term loan onto the whole building, and turning it into an income-generating asset, which we call build to rent, as effectively an option B.
Yeah. And does it work with the numbers?
Yeah, it does work with the numbers.
Okay.
If obviously there's it's basically two different business models.
Yeah.
With build to sell, you make a profit, which is what you sell it for after minus the cost of the land and the cost of construction and all the other costs that go along with it, such as interest costs, SIL,
professional fees,
etc., etc.
Yeah.
Build to rent is a different model where rather than making a profit, some of the equity remains in the building, a small amount, but then the yield on the cash flow yield from the rent over the equity that remains in the building means that the yield is in kind of the 20+% range.
Okay,
which is attractive to investors as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Okay. And last time I was here, the GDV was 6.5 million, if I'm correct. Has that changed?
Actually, 6.5. That was one of my more conservative days. So
okay.
We're kind of thereabouts.
Okay. Right. Well, look, last time I was here, this was your second project, the second site. Have you got anything else going on then, since then?
We've taken some time to kind of build up the infrastructure and build up the team of the business to be able to scale. That's part of the reason why Tyler's on board, and part of the reason why I'm focused on having a top performing team to be able to do that, which I feel like we've set up now.
Right.
And the plan for this year is to acquire as a target 2 more sites. And we have the team in place, we have the funding in place, and we have the overall kind of ambition in place to be able to do that.
So you said you're looking at other sites. Are you going to be taking a step up in terms of size and scale of sites?
Yes, the plan for this year is to do 2 schemes that are 20 plus flats,
right?
Generally within the M25 area. Given the market, those will likely be built to rent model schemes. And with the team we have in place, I'm confident that we'll be able to deliver those.
We're actively looking. We've got offers in place. We're looking to move forward before 2026 and have some decent sized projects in place.
Amazing. Yeah.
20 million GDVs. Some substantial profits, and me and Phil are super ambitious and ready to attack it.
What lessons from this one would you take forward?
First lesson is to organize the tender process properly. Have all of the documents available, make sure that they are coordinated, and to do the tender process in a basically managed way for main contractors. The second lesson is that the design team is crucial, and the quality of the design team is crucial, in particular architects, because architects are likely to take on a leading role in managing the design team.
Yeah.
You don't want to be squeezing a site from the initial stage. You need to you know, before you even look at getting finance on that site, the numbers need to work prior to finance.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to manipulate a site to work, and really trying to
from the outset
and trying to cut corners before you've implemented any finance costs into that, then the site is probably not viable, because the finance costs, you know, if you're scraping around the barrel and trying to make 10-12%,
completely
you can put yourself in a really difficult position. So the site needs to be viable and profitable before you integrate financial costs.
But I wouldn't say that's a lesson from this side.
Well, no, not a lesson from this side, but as an overall, I think that's a fairly broad lesson. If for other people interested in getting into property, I think first, you know, rule 101 when you're analysing a site, ensure that it's viable before you integrate any financial costs.
Okay.
But maybe to do a specific lesson for this side.
Yeah.
And the third lesson is to, especially on a constrained site like this, to engage proactively with the neighbors early on, and also keep them informed of the construction process through the process. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, that was amazing. Thanks for showing us around, Phil. It's always a pleasure.
A pleasure, Paresh.
Appreciate the time.
Paresh, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. And the scheme's really taking shape. And yeah, it'd be nice to, you know, come back to do another progress video with you guys in maybe a few months' time.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back.
That's it, guys. That's the end of this week's video. From bare land to rising frame, this site is showing signs of something really special. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you at the next one.